So I made the last video a while ago, the last video related strictly to TBC lore, quite a while ago, when I just started leveling and I was going through Hellfire Ramparts and trying to understand what the whole thing was about, and I was having an amazing time. It's just straight from the get-go, you get to see how much passion, how much detail is put into the game, and you start to understand the theme of the expansion, which for me, I didn't even really want to go into TBC in the first place because I realized it was something about aliens and so on and so forth. That was like 1.5 years ago when they were starting to announce they might go with TBC right after Classic and so on and so forth. I thought they were gonna take it into a very sci-fi direction, but then I read about the Naru, and in the last video that's where I left off. I left off just being amazed about these Naru beings and the concept and the theme around them, where you just approach them and you hear these musical chimes and your brain and your mind starts reacting somehow, and they sort of like speak to you telepathically. And so that was that, and also another quest called the Path of Glory, where you realize that there's a path made of the bones of the Draenei, and you must redeem them with holy water or some sort of that nature. Then I realized that they were gonna go into the medieval fantasy. They were just gonna take it into space, quote unquote, the heavens as they call it, which absolutely makes sense. As I've been saying, there are real theories about these ancient scriptures and philosophies and so on and so forth, where the so-called heavens, the so-called celestial beings, when you think about celestial, what do you think? You think about light, you think about divinity, but at the same time, celestial comes from the universe, from the cosmos, so the heavens and space might be the same thing. So you can see how they related all this medieval fantasy that Classic always had. When you go into Classic, it's all about the revenants and these zombie-like creatures and these necromancers and conjuration and the transporting these interdimensional demons into the world, creating this evil, and you counter it with the holy light and with creating the alliance, creating this group of societies who are gonna work together against the evil, against the dragon or whatsoever. If you think about the Ragnarok fight, you go straight into hell and you fight the forces of hell. It's something. So a lot of people say that a Classic has no lore at all. They say that TBC, there's no lore in TBC, it's all crap and so on and so forth. But these are the people who click the dialogue, who cannot read more than one paragraph, or they don't possess the mental acuity to keep reading more than 2 or 3 paragraphs of a story. But nevertheless, more than reading those paragraphs, what the early versions of the game do is they tell you a very in-depth and detailed story with the environment, with the very environment of the places you are in, with the quest hubs, with the music, with the theme. So you're just standing there on a field that used to be a sepulcher for the Draenei, and there are all these bones played around. There was a big magical explosion from some sort of experiments with magic, or this bringing of these interdimensional demons into reality, and they did it in this sepulcher called Okindon. And so then you have to kill whatever menace they summoned in there. So they tell you the whole story with the quest and the way they are tied. So it's an environmental story. It's not like the cutscenes that we have today in the modern game or in other games, where they just tell you a basic story with a 2 or 3 minute cinematic, which is very bland. No, in TBC and Classic, they tell you a story. The theme, the environment is the story, with these little cues, with these little things you read here and there. So it has lore, and it has a lot of it, but you have to actually read the quests and you have to pay attention to your environments. And when you play just all the way further away from your character with 70% of your screen filled up with bars and with your DPS meters to make you feel good, of course you're not gonna get involved, of course you're not gonna get immersed, of course you're not gonna understand what the story is trying to tell you. Well, there are different storylines and different quests that explain different things. For example, in Nagrand, you go to, you see Oshugun and this Genadar ship which has been buried and has been praised by the local people. You got the Earthen Ring, which are like the spirits of nature and so on and so forth. In a circle, just studying the flora and fauna of the place, like these little storylines. But the core storyline, or at least one that truly impacted me, is the whole thing in Trokar Forest, on Okindon. As I've been saying, these lores and these narratives, you think about the Elder Scrolls, you think about even the Legend of Zelda, like the very traditional medieval fantasy. Where do all the revenants come? The vampirism and werewolves and all these beasts that come in the night, the undead, the concept of the undead. They are approaching the theme of death, and they do the same thing in this Okindon thing, as I've been saying. Something that truly impacted me while I was streaming was, I suddenly out of nowhere, I was thinking about all these things while I'm walking on this field full of bones and redeeming them with holy water or whatever, like bringing peace to the bones or something like that. And then you see these spectral ethereal bodies just floating around, and they are brought back to life and into this strange ritual that these necromancers or these conjurers are trying to do in Okindon. And that was like super cool to me, because they're trying to relate the whole theme of that into space. It happens in space, it happens in other planets, the same thing, but somehow they turned it into something more related to technology. It's no longer just a ritual, it's about these higher beings, these more evolved alien races which understand death more in depth, and they have different ways to approach it and to understand it and to redeem these souls. It's not just the holy water in classic where you just go to Stratholme or something like that. In TBC, you bring some sort of an Otronag, which you summon in that Tomb of Light quest, where you're supposed to, as always, redeem the souls of the Draenei Exarchs or Vindicators, something like that, the paladins of the Draenei, which are confused and dazed. And this is what I'm saying, these specters, these ghosts, are sort of trapped in that. They don't realize they are dead. They're sort of trapped in a timeline, on a time-space, continuum, where they are thinking they are doing the same things. They are either working on their blacksmith or going in about the days, and they do this in some of the quests down the line on the Netherstone, which is kind of interesting. It's always the same. I even did some BFA questing, I remember, and they have the same theme. It's so very natural for us to think about these ghosts in video games and in the Elder Scrolls and these hauntings and all these things, but when you think deeply into it, they are trying to explain that and what all of these things might be. But in any case, what I was saying about this Tomb of Light quest is that there's this Otronat doing this strange, it's not a ritual, it seems to go further into a technological process. It does something. I don't know what they do. They don't really explain to you what they do, but you summon this Otronag with some sort of device, and then this Otronag does something to the area, and you see all these markings on the walls and these sort of teletransporters and just these lines on the ground, the purple lines, this strange language that looks like those crop circles, these crop formations, so these signals that, according to the real life lore, is related to UFOs, to alien phenomena. So you can see that they're trying to put this sort of language into that, but what they're trying to tell you here is that this is not a ritual. This is an alien race which understands death deeply, and they have mechanisms to bring about that quote-unquote redemption. They have the whole story, and at the end there's this final vindicator, and you defeat him, and then he also gets redeemed. You were also just there to just put an end to it, but he also gets redeemed. And when you go back to the quest keeper, he tells you, oh, you don't know what you've done for us, Bill. Like, thank you so much, this is so amazing, you just redeemed a bunch of Draenei. So they kind of understand that this is like a normal thing. They understand the lines between life and death, and they have their own methodology and technology to do this. Now, well, it seems like I am just nerding out about the TBC lore and all these things, and I might actually be doing it a little bit. As I've said, it is my thesis, and it's gonna be my thesis in this lore channel, to sort of connect these themes that we find in video games, in video game narratives, to the real life research. Now, that what I'm saying is that my thesis is that these fantasy narratives are not pure imagination. These ideas come from somewhere. And now I don't think that developers were trying to create this conspiracy and they were just, geniuses who were trying to put an encrypted message about what might lie beyond space in the quote-unquote heavens. But what I'm saying is that the subconscious mind is very strong, and there is this theory that there is a collective subconscious mind where through dreams and through mythologies and through these works of imagination, might not actually be imagination but memories. I just made a video about this. This was my last video on this channel where I was reminded about why I do this whole thing. So I want to approach this topic a little bit, because today we have modern research about the extraterrestrial phenomena, which seems to point to the idea that indeed we are not alone in the universe. And one of the things that truly strikes to me is the whole concept of the Draenei being for preserving life, and under their influence is to act in the ways of the light and to understand the mysteries of the light, and the whole background lore that I think it was released after they created TBC, where the whole idea was that they were an advanced society who was trying to understand the mysteries of the universe through the arcane, and then they had some sort of upheaval, something bad happened to them where they had to use the Exodus and the Geneda to escape, and the whole collapse of their society, and now they're just going all over the universe, and not only the universe but multi-dimensions. So you have to remember that the lore manages this idea that the Exodus is not only, it does not travel only through space but interdimensionally. What does that even mean? Well, we have modern research where a lot of people who are having these encounters with UFOs and with alleged extraterrestrials say that the experience is not entirely physical. The experience is more dreamlike, more like a hallucination. But when you go into the literature, you find that there are a lot of patterns in these encounters. And now another thing that I find very interesting is that in the real UFO research, in the real contact phenomena, you have these reports of healings that happen with some sort of strange, what we would call rituals, which are not rituals but are really technology that we perhaps don't understand now. So if you go into the actual research, just go right now on Google. What I want to do with this lore channel is to try to lead people into this research, because I find it amazing that it is in our fantasy narrative. So if you think that I'm just trolling, that I'm just making up stuff, just go on Google right now and just Google UFO and healings, reports, etc. You'll find quite a bit of literature that might interest you, especially if you like these fantasy narratives, because as I said, it is possible that this fantasy narrative this idea that was originated in a developer's mind came from somewhere. As I said, this subconscious mind, this greater connected force that is, it expands all throughout our world, our known world, our subconscious mind, and it goes all the way into the universe. It's the same force, the same consciousness that is behind every set of eyes. So the game, the World of Warcraft, manages the theme of the light as a very, without any iconography, without any defined lore. It's just a force of righteousness, a force that connects everything and heals. And in the UFO research, this paranormal phenomena and these healings, there is this concept and this idea from so-called quote-unquote channelers, which are receiving information allegedly from outside this world, from non-human intelligences, and they are telling them that this force that connects everything is real. And yes, the very theme of the light is real. And as I said, just don't believe me, just Google the Galactic Federation of Light, and you might think all of this is just imagination and is nonsense. Then go into near-death experiences and Google the theme of the light. This is a real theme. This is something that is beginning to stack. These are reports and real research that is beginning to stack. And it's all pointing towards the same thing. But the final message is not one to worry and one to be scared of and one to be completely baffled by. It is actually a message of hope. A message that is there's something out there which we are barely starting to understand, and which could go beyond our craziest philosophies, our mythologies, our religions. And I believe that our fantasy narratives are but a glimpse, an abstract, an unrefined version of the possibilities which might lie beyond our known world. If you would like to know more about the lore surrounding these fantasy narratives and how they perhaps connect to real-life theories and philosophies, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, as I will try to find these connections and explore the possibilities that these lores can provide. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.